And we are fortunate and happy to be joined by Lieutenant Adam Fisher of the Tuscarawas County Sheriff's Department's Detective Bureau. So, Lieutenant Fisher, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
I was glad to hear you say that you weren't all that happy to see the snow, because I'm not really either.
No, absolutely not. The 60-degree weathers in February that we had was much better than our snow this morning.
And now you see why he was invited onto the show. So, yeah. So, I do want to thank you and thank Sheriff Campbell for allowing you to come in here this morning. So, not sure where to start. I guess I want to start with you, I suppose. You are the lieutenant of at the Detectives Bureau, which is kind of in charge of things. But that doesn't just happen. So, if a little bit of backstory. You told me you were the kid that used to write tickets to people. Is that really true?
Yes. So it started off young, probably about 5 years old. I was the kid who was always carrying the cap gun on my hip, strapped to my belt, and writing tickets on old restaurant receipts. To my grandpa for doing things that I thought he shouldn't be doing. So the interest in law enforcement started young.
And then that went on right through education. Was that locally?
Right on through education. I graduated from Perry High School in Canton. Went to the University of Akron for the police academy. Have since have a couple of different degrees. And then everything's been local.
So with the Tuscarawas County Sheriff's Department, you start there, and you told me obviously you had this interest in law enforcement since you were the little kid. But as it progressed, you became more interested in the Detectives Bureau. What do you think triggered that?
I think it's really the thinking game, or how you gain a mastery of something and it becomes slightly boring. And I don't want that to sound awkward or like I'm not interested in law enforcement at all. But I think after you spend a number of years on the road responding to the calls, you almost come to a point in life where you feel like you can handle those calls as they're given to you. And it's always just that desire for something more, to do something different. And the Detective Bureau is definitely that.
It is for sure. Now, my first question to you, I guess, when we started talking about this was, why doesn't every deputy just involve him or herself in investigating every case? Why does the Detectives Bureau exist?
I definitely think there's a need for both. There's a need for the deputies who are assigned to the road division. Those are your deputies who are responding to the calls immediately as they are happening. With that being said, there's a limited number of them, and there's a large area within the county in need of assistance at times. So it's designed, so to speak, so that they can free themselves up quickly and move on to the next call. The Detective Bureau in and of itself we can investigate cases that take months to get to some sort of resolve or come to some type of completed status. So this month-long process or months-long process, so really just the time to slow down and delve into some things, is where the Detective Bureau comes into place.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't have a choice because you're waiting for subpoenas and other things, right?
Yes. So there are different companies that we may work with, some that many of you are familiar with and others that you are not, that we require subpoenas and search warrants for us to get information back from them. And sometimes that information, just the return of that information alone, can take weeks.
What's the workload like? Because, as someone who's involved in a case, you might think this is taking a long time, but you may obviously have multiple cases at once, right?
Yes. So it is nothing for any of the detectives to have multiple 4, 5, 6 cases open at one particular time. And we have 5 individuals within the Detective Bureau. So if you start adding those things up, there's always a large number of cases that are being investigated at the same time.
You better be organized.
Organization is key, yes.
For sure. What is the degree of your education at this point? And you were telling me that there's a couple of people, and yourself included, that are highly qualified. And it feels like we're lucky to have that in a less than multi-urban type area.
Yeah, so my education in general is obviously the police academy. That's pretty basic. A master's degree in psychology and a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. But aside from that, it's really the hands-on experience and the knowledge of the working world that makes our operation successful. I am one of 500 and some within the state of Ohio that has a master criminal investigator certification. And we have Sergeant Ryan Hamilton, who is our crime scene investigator, who is one of 300 and something in the state for a master crime scene investigator certification.
That's impressive, and it's also, I think, comforting to know that we have that kind of qualified people to investigate this. Are the caseloads increasing?
I I would tend to say that the caseloads roughly in general remain the same with the number of cases that are investigated throughout the years, but the nature of the cases change. So when I first started in the Detective Bureau, the burglaries, breaking and enterings, entering people's houses and taking their property, those cases were on the rise, and we were dealing with a lot of those things. Now we've shifted slightly, and our sex-related cases are on the increase, and our mental health-related cases are on the increase.
Do you see a parallel with the pandemic in that?
I think so. The pandemic in general, when we became more comfortable being isolated and being alone, or were, forced to do those things. And now we are in our world today, and our friends are limited, our contacts are limited, our resources of how we're handling certain issues are maybe not limited, but we don't always know how to reach out for those things. So I do believe that that's probably part of it.
Are you involved at all in trying to get people connected with some of the outreach programs that are available, or is it too late by the time you're involved?
No, I think we at the Sheriff's Office do a very nice job of trying to reach out to those in need of any mental health services, and we do try to link those. The majority of our deputies are CIT trained, which is the part of a crisis intervention team trained, and we continue to make that a priority that all deputies at some point will be trained in that program.
So you said there's how many in the Detective Bureau? About 6?
There's five of us in the Detective Bureau, 4 full-time detectives, so to speak, and 1 crime scene investigator.
As we move on, obviously you're young, but by attrition, these positions will eventually open. Are you currently looking, or are you always on the look for someone new who might be good for this kind of a position?
Absolutely. The Sheriff's Office is always looking for individuals who want to join our team. Obviously, walking right in off the street, right out of an academy, is not necessarily going to put you in a position of the Detective Bureau, but we are very open to molding or helping direct individuals into the positions that they would like. So, yes, we are always looking for individuals.
Do you ever see somebody come in and you think after a couple of weeks, that might be a candidate right there?
Absolutely. Yes.
It's kind of a personality thing.
Yes, it is. It's a personality thing. It's a drive thing.
Are there any stories that you tell people, or examples that you have when they say, "What's it like being on the Detective Bureau?" Is there a case like, "Oh well, you should know this"?
I like to say that it's controlled chaos as first and foremost. But, there are cases that we deal with are significant. They're not for the faint of heart at all. We deal with children who are abused. We deal with those sex cases that you've heard me mention earlier, down to just somebody entered my shed and my lawnmower got stolen. So on any given day, there could be a dynamic of any events that are there. So
that is a crisis if it's your lawnmower, by the way.
It is a crisis if it's your lawnmower. And if it was my lawnmower, it would be an absolute crisis too. So I understand that. It just, property crimes versus, people in and of themselves being victimized personally. There's a dynamic there.
Well, no one calls the Sheriff's Office and asks for the Detective Bureau, but you obviously encourage people to get a hold of authorities when they believe there's a problem then, right?
Absolutely. We hear a lot that I didn't want to bother you or I didn't want to be a burden. And what I tell individuals all the time is always call. You're never a burden. That's our job. That's what we get paid to do. We're employed by the county to assist the citizens that are here. And always, if you see something, say something. More eyes, the better on some of these incidents. So you're always helpful, or have the potential to be helpful if you call us.
I would be glad to have you come back sometime and say, we just don't have enough to do anymore. Wouldn't that be great?
That would be great. If I could do that someday, that would be great.
Well, you call us if that's happening, and we'll let you come back on.
Okay. We'll do.
Anything else we should know before we let you go back into the world?
I don't think so. I think we are doing our best for the community of Tuscarawas County. We enjoy working in the community. I enjoy working in the community in and of itself.
We appreciate having you here today. and here in the community with us. So continued success. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. That is Lieutenant Adam Fisher of the Tuscarawas County Sheriff's Office Detective Bureau, our guest this morning on the 830 High Beam.